thank you very much, Miguel, for the invite. And my name is Edmund. I'm the Executive Director of Hong Kong Design Center. So very nice to meet you all on the online space. Now, today I will focus on how cities embrace creativity. Now, to us, this has been the going effort for Design Center for almost 2 decades. But in time like this, when everybody is going through the pandemic with fear and uncertainty looming over us, I think it's even more crucial for us to talk about this topic, because it's easy to say that this is a testing time of city resilience and the level of enterprise and creativity. But that really is even more important, for people to outgrow after this period. How we can restart our business and restore our life. What is the new normal? There's a lot of things that we need to consider. Now, coming back to this topic, embracing creativity in cities, I think it's hold dear to our public mission to promote good design. And let me just make sure that we get this slide right. Okay, so we're talking about a future that is pretty much characterized by complexity and uncertainty. And we increasingly talk much about the growth mindset, which I will elaborate a little bit more. With that, we need to have that inner growth ability to sustain, to help us grow through this period. And it's very crucial that we remain innovative and agile. And at the same time, I think this period is a great highlight that everybody is just susceptible, to any worst possible things that could happen to us. We need to stay humble, and but at the same time, how we can charge ourselves with creative confidence and be resourceful is very important. When we talk about vulnerability, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity for quite some time, lots of people really cannot figure out what we're talking about. But of course, the COVID-19 actually enable us, to put our mind that we do need to prepare ourselves. Now, during this pandemic, experience, it's very clear that no matter how well we think we are, how advanced our economy is, how well equipped we have in our healthcare infrastructure, it seems none of us are actually that well prepared, for the situation. So how we could position ourselves and how we could grow ourselves when the future is pretty much vague and not so sure and ambiguous. I think it's one thing. It's entirely about the leadership. It's a good topic, to not just debate about it, but really go deeper to understand how we could better prepare ourselves, our enterprises, and for city leaders, how to keep the city growing in a sustained fashion. We talk a lot about not just design, but good design. Every day we come across design that we do not like. But good design is something that we feel, wow, this is lovely. There's pleasure behind it. There's joy, and the people are just resonating with the positive feeling. And we need to think beyond aesthetics, functions, and efficiency. Now, for many people, design is still very much an add-on things, okay? But we really need to embrace design with aspirations, and it will demonstrate the creative leadership. And good design is clear with clarity, and importantly, it conveys the empathy because you have the ability to draw people together. And when we talk about good design, we need to go deep into understanding the making of, the business of, and the people-centric. How we can actually draw deep and actionable insights, and particularly the behavioral ones, before we design anything. And I think we are seeing design growing influence across policymaking, economic, industrial, cultural, and societal development. Design has gone through a long history of development. But if you start thinking about when McKinsey, when all the business consultancy start to talk about design thinking, and how business should embrace design, I think it's a very crucial, important message that we bring to ourselves. Design is not an add-on thing. I think it has to be integrated all the way from planning onwards and all the way to delivery. And it's very crucial that we understand that design thinking is not a unique privilege for designers. In fact, we should try best to integrate the design mindfulness, the human-centered approach of framing problems, solving issues, and how to deliver a proposition that will create meaning, purpose, and value to the people. Design is not just a discipline. Increasingly, economies around us, all over the world, and particularly in Asia, have embraced design at a very high level. Governments across the globe are using design to foster human-centered design, inclusive growth, to foster societal well-being and sustainable development. In Asia, we have seen, design being embraced, as part of the policy, and in Hong Kong, in Singapore, in Korea, Japan, Thailand, and China. I think all these economies are competing, with unique propositions and businesses that are able to create values and even impact the way trades are conducted and businesses are conducted and so on and so forth. If you think design is just a discipline, you just have a quick glance of all the different sectors per today's definitions. All sectors will benefit with a creative state of mind, with creative leadership, with good design. So it's very crucial for us to understand design is not an add-on. If you do not view design as an investment, you will still be able to get some incremental benefits when you do your design. But the value, the strategic value of design will only be achieved if you take that seriously and strategically. And here, that's why the Design Center invested into so much efforts all the way to now and into the future, to cultivate design thinking and to foster enterprise and creativity all across different professions, sectors, and industries, and age groups. Even if you looked at the history of Design Center, 2 decades ago, we started small on Kennedy Road, which is a heritage property, and currently is the home of office of former chief executives. And then we move on and grow in size and to Inner Center, which is owned and managed by Hong Kong Science and Technology Parks. Essentially, it's a technology base to foster startups and businesses. And right now, we moved to the Mills in Chinwan. Now, for friends from afar, when you next have chance to visit Hong Kong, and we welcome you to visit our new base at the Mills. It is a revitalized facility. It used to be a cotton mill, now turned into a cultural hub for enjoyment of the community. And Chinwan is a very interesting district as well. And in fact, it's a very good base for us to promote good design, because we are empowering vicinity huge populations of people living, families, kids, and we have many schools around. And then, we have many factories and enterprises around us. And of course, in Hong Kong is actually not too big a city, and with very good mobility network and mass transit railway, and it's very close to the city center as well. Now, that isn't just about moving office. Interestingly, a few years down the line, we are now actually planning to have a new design and fashion base in Samshui Hall and Old District, which I will talk a little bit more in a minute. And it's actually showing, the spirit of design center as we grow along. We are actually charging up ourselves, and we are spreading enterprise and creativity, to the community. We start off, almost like with a humble base, set up offices, and then we move closer to the community. And eventually, when we move to some shape form, we actually have a mission, to activate, to help energize the district. So when we talk about future, we do need to explore the future because we have no ideas what's going to happen next, what exactly is the new normal. But we need to be forever be creative and be people-centric. Like the Global Foresight Summit, we bring along an amazing mix of personalities and people, literally topics spanning all areas. Now in Hong Kong, when we organize our annual program, like Business of Design Week, we pull together in the same way many fine creative business minds to talk about how design can impact city, our economy, culture, and the living. Even when we talk about the brands and lifestyle, fashion is something that in Hong Kong the government wants to help advance the fashion development. Not only are we nurturing the fashion talents, we are also exploring the new business models, because fashion is no longer just fashion. It's integrated as part of the lifestyle. It shapes and can influence change, the demographics and all the we have to really understand the culture and subcultures of our populations and the changing demographics. And we're looking at not just the professions per se, the industry per se, but we are more interested into looking at the cross-border issues, particularly in Hong Kong. Just across the border, we're onto even a bigger market, mainland China. And if you look at the whole Asia, it's even a bigger marketplace. So we need to help everybody, not just our designers, but businesses, to fully leverage how creativity and good design can help business to grow and continue to bring vibe to our city and business. So we talk about, as a design center, of course, we promote good design. We focus on design leadership, excellence, and how to promote the good design culture and how to nurture the creative minds. Now, every year we give out accolades and awards by recognition to World Outstanding Chinese Designer, Design Leadership Award, and Lifetime Achievement Award. All this not just a creative personality of renown, but because of what they do and how they influence the professions, the industries, and contribute to the society. And when we looked at all the winning awards, that is pretty amazing. Design for Asia means all the projects are completed projects and realized in Asia, not just in Hong Kong. So by running the awards program year after year, we're de facto tracking the design trends, how creativity and how design actually evolves over time, and not just impact on their own design disciplines, but how business actually use design to create their unique propositions and differentiated uniqueness. So when we looked at all these winning entries, it's really important that we understand the making of the narrative behind it and the stories. Okay, it's not about whether you have money to engage a designer. Okay, good design doesn't necessarily mean expensive stuff. It's all about how we read into the context. Good design must be in context. How you read deep into your clients, understanding their business, understanding the cultural context. Particularly design for Asia is a very unique proposition because all the different geographies, they have their own unique characteristics. We have different languages, dialects, cultures, even color mean very different things to people. So when you design for Asia, you have to understand, the context, the substance, behind. So the moment, a few years ago, we gave an award to the Seoul metropolitan city mayor, to use design to reduce crime. You can tell that design is no longer just impact, on maybe delivering values for the retail business or creating a nice space, for someone. It's actually very meaningful, unique, and purposeful propositions. And importantly, design is a human-centered approach. It's about problem framing. It's about problem solving. And of course, our mission and involves us to do a lot of nurturing of our creative talents. And it's very crucial for them to have expand horizons. And through government funding, which we are blessed because including Design Center, many of the programs that you will come across today, many of them are virtually all of them are funded by Create Hong Kong, Hong Kong SAR government. And we have the ability to and some resources to take some of our emerging designers to go around the world and to broaden their creative their horizons. And for some of the DFA young design talents, they are even privileged to have opportunity to go abroad, anything between 6 months to 1 year, to do experience placement, working with some cultural institutions, design houses, and to gain more experience. There are a lot of issues that we need to fix, so to speak. And design with a big D is very philosophical. It's a very rich set of methodologies and mindset and competence. When we organize programs such as Knowledge of Design Week, it's a more intensive learning program. We go into more interlinked spaces. For example, looked at last year and this year, we're planning designing digital futures because that impact on everyday lives and our businesses. Interestingly, on Facebook, people talk about the digital disruption, and the main driver these days are not CEOs, CTOs. It is COVID-19. It's actually jump-starting everybody to embrace digital. If you want to stay connected because of social distancing, you spend more time at home with your family, which is amazing. But at the same time, if you want to stay connected with your clients, with your business partners, you have to go digital. And for many businesses, operating with flexibility, I'm sure that not all businesses can fully allow staff to work from home. There's still a lot of process-driven, a lot of paper-driven that we are embedded. So digital disruption is a real thing ongoing. And we talk about livability, design of a livable city. We talk about health experience. All these are not single discipline. We are talking about how we connected the many different verticals and silos and into delivering holistic propositions. End of the day, the people using it will appreciate what you offer to them. And then we invested a lot of efforts since almost 2012. And then we run programs. We are not a school. We are a design promotion agency. But since a long time, almost from 2012, we start the journey of promoting creative thinking, design, and design thinking to the broader community. And we take design thinking, to the policymakers, decision makers level. And then we're working with civil servants. We're training civil servants, and we have programs working, for example, locally with Chinese University, the MBA program. We've been working with them for many years, pilot to bring design thinking to their top executives. And then we're spreading the programs to healthcare professionals, and we are bringing, the projects. And we are actually doing projects for government as well, so that the design thinking is not just a theory. We turn them into practice, and it's very important that design doing is actually embedded into our work. When top organizations such as Royal College of Art, our dear partner that we've been working for quite some time, talks about design doing, highlights the important aspects that design thinking is more than a framework, it's more than a mindset, it's more than theory. It's very crucial that you practice it, and then to to develop competence as you go along. And so when we develop and we work with the government, for example, on the Hong Kong post office, the starting point is very straightforward. The post office is very old. Okay, so it's straightforward renovation. But when you deploy design thinking into it, the project is no longer a renovation or interior design project. So we actually invest quite a bit of time into stakeholder engagement, and then we really go deep into understanding, observing them, talk with them, and then draw out deep insights, their behavior, their aspirations, their feelings. Post office is running service for the citizens, but at the same time, they're also competing with other couriers. That's why it's very important for them to understand this is more than just a renovation project. So by the time we come up with all the insights, the objective becomes how to strategically enhance the postal service delivery efficiency and enhance user experience. That becomes the objective. All of a sudden, design becomes strategic, not just at a level designing a nice space or renovating projects. The same thing as the park. Please fix up the signage and please come up with some more interesting public furniture. When design thinking is in play, we go back to the original purpose of what is the park for, and the objective is very much bringing back for citizens to enjoy the spaces. So when you have that design thinking in mind, that actually works very well when you're pushed for time, when you don't have a lot of resources. That is a very good opportunity that you deploy creativity and creative thinking to really use design and to draw out the aspirations and the needs of the people. And that will make a good design project. And then we are working with the government currently now on enhancing the public toilets and even revitalize some parts of the Lantau Island Trail for visitors and our citizens to enjoy. And then we bring this kind of creative thinking into schools. Now, there are many Title Ones in that in Asia, and I'm sure all around the world. And it's very crucial for them to understand that creativity is not only for designers. Okay, we're all born when we are kids. We are very creative, and somehow when we grow up, in our education, we become more institutionalized with certain mindsets. I think it's very crucial that we develop almost like with a T-shaped competence. We could have some core competence ourselves, but it's very important that we build some horizontal ability to connect dots across disciplines, to be interactive with what's happening around us. And so it's very crucial for us to inject the creative life and vibe into kids when they're young. And then we build up the CEO network across sectors, because design is an investment. Okay, they are the people with resources. If they do not have understanding of what design is, it's very difficult for people or for good creative talents and designers to really have more project opportunities to work. And we do a lot lately to promote good design to our community. And we are very privileged to have this opportunity to work with Urban Renewal Authority on number 7 Mallory Street. And we have access to some of the exhibition spaces where we can do all year round exhibitions to promote good design and run workshops and engage the community and the kids over there, and to appreciate cultures, to appreciate design, and to heighten their artistic sensibility and to understand what design actually is. And creative placement can be held dearly in our latest portfolio of work. And in developing Hong Kong as an innovation district, because the government is has very strong policy support on innovation and technology development, and design to us in the city level is not just design, it's also about city branding. And it's all about how to inject creative vibe to the community, and how to foster collaboration, and how to curate experience for people to enjoy. Projects like Design District Hong Kong that we're working with Tourism Commission is turning places, districts in Hong Kong into a live design gallery. so that the people can walk around and enjoy. Okay, sometimes in a city that is very well established, we don't have any surprises. I mean, good surprises. But by doing a project like this, we're able to bring in something different, something, wow, I haven't come across this. This is a unique, nice experience. And this project allows us to well connect and go deep into our community. And then we work closely with the business. We work closely with the small shops in different areas. And then importantly, we create many, many opportunities which allow artists, designers, curators to work with us. Okay, so that programs can grow, and we're organically growing the program, so to speak. And all these things are very important. Even though when people say arts for people is very important, it's for nurturing, it's for enrichment. But honestly with you, that enrichment is very crucial. As said, design is really not an add-on module. Okay, you need to think about how you embed that enterprising creativity into people's DNA, so that whatever situation they are in, there's always some new possibility and inspirations that they could draw. Project like this, we're thinking beyond, just the projects and the activities. We're thinking about city livability. We're thinking how to make our streetscape more interesting. We're thinking about how creative talents, we can get more of them to participate, and we can grow them as well. And we foster community collaborations, and we talk about participatory design. And importantly, by working with Tourism Commission, because we want to make Hong Kong an attractive place as well. If you think about this project, this is one child. Now, having some kind of artistic installations in public spaces, what is so big deal? But, ladies and gentlemen, this is about a 150 meters permanent photographic installation established, installed in the mass transit railway station in Wan Chai. That is quite something, okay? And we are turning, the normal commuter, spaces into something that can cheer them up. That when they walk along, not only will they appreciate, the fantastic landscape in Wan Chai, which has layers of old and new, and the architecture. There are many local small enterprises going on. And when we work with Hong Kong Ballet, and that the whole thing is almost like you are into a play, enjoy with the Wan Chai streetscape landscape in the background. And that is quite something that we work with. This is an amazing, the MTR project that we have the unique opportunities to work with them. A few years down the line, we have this design and fashion-based project in some shape or I mentioned it to you. For you that will visit Hong Kong in next time, please visit this district. Is sometimes labeled as a very poor district, very old. But I'm telling you, there's a lot of vibe going up right now. It's not just the layers of old and new. There are stories about the building, about the architecture. Of course, being related to fashion, because there's a lot of trades, related to fashion, textile, garments, accessories. And there are many shops, there are many engineering metalworks, and increasingly there are many smaller shops, where craftsmen, artisans, and designers are taking spots in. And there are many cultural, lifestyle-driven spaces there as well. It's a very interesting spot. So we're talking about how we could showcase the Hong Kong creative powers, and the government, with their strong policy support, want us to develop it as a design and fashion landmark. And we would help to cultivate design sensibility and creative thinking to the community, and importantly, to inject the creative life in the community. So a project like this, we're not rebuilding it. We're only a humble, small organizations. It's about how our work and programming can help reborn the district, that we can marry the rich legacy, and then we can bring in innovation, and we can turn the space into a livable, lively, interesting space, and importantly, to draw some favorable and desirable and outcomes. At the end of the day, the government also wants this to be a touristic, attraction as well. So, no matter what you talk about design, whether you heard about STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, or you can talk about STEAM, whether you inject creative design and arts into that, or even lately, STREAM with the robotics elements. That we are living with many buzzwords, the jargon these days. Honestly, if we live with a human-centric approach, design with a big D, this is a holistic, could be very system level. The design plus is a very happy playground because you can collaborate across disciplines, across arts, science, technology, cultural establishments, and education. That's in Hong Kong and how we work closely with our stakeholders. And because Hong Kong is small and we have the opportunities, through programming, to get people together. So we'll increasingly use the design plus as one of the narrative and notion, to foster collaboration as we go along. So I hope that, the COVID times only highlight that no matter who we are, how well we think we are just a humble citizen, okay? And we face challenges all the time, but how we turn that into opportunity is very important, particularly with the advance of science and engineering. Now, lots of cities are talking about smart city, but at the end of the day, smart city have to be human cities. And it's very important that good design and tech deployed as enablers for new possibilities. And hope that through more of this programming, that we can see human-centered design and help to turn creative ideas into innovations. And it's very important, particularly we've got so many talents across disciplines, that we need to really reach all these silos, okay? And sometimes we are bound by institutional thinking, bound by governance, okay? So we are boxed in to a certain extent. We need to have big ambition. We need to create differentiated experiences. So importantly, when we talk about innovation, we need forward-thinking governance and supportive systems and a growth mindset. And also we need more system-level leaders who can rally diverse stakeholders and motivate positive change, including behavioral change. Now, a few days ago, we had the opportunity workshop. We talk about how we activate, the subject work space, and it's great, to have some inspirations, from Jonathan Cummings of Land and Future. And then, if you looked at, all the dimensions that we talk about, design is really a rich subject: strategy, leadership, management, programming, creativity, good design, and how to transform into a nice experience, desirable experience, and cultural transformation. And I only just picked up, some aspects. We need to learn how to ask questions, okay? Without that ability, it's very difficult to understand deep insights. So you can ask different questions because design is always in context. That applies to your situation so that you can better understand, what makes people tick, what makes people enjoy. And it's an ecosystem approach. It's almost like a rainforest. Can we design a rainforest? Some people will say yes. Most people will say no because it's natural, it's organic. And particularly in today's concept, the ecosystem is getting more complex. Okay, how can we maintain transparency and accountability? And people talk about, do care about privacy these days. Okay, and how do we make community more autonomous? We hear all these new technologies like blockchains in the ecosystem. Actually, it's a broad network with rich flow of values all across different people. No one wants to have intermediaries. Okay, we want fast efficiency, transfer values. Everybody see the flow, and so that it breeds the trust and accountability. Okay, how technology can help us to weave in the stronger fabrics into our proposition is very crucial. So we need to continue to ask questions. How can we be more adaptive, and how can we help community to be resourceful and move along and when they need to. Finally, I think no matter whether you buy in this vulnerability, complexity, ambiguity, and uncertainty things, we need to have a growth mindset. Carol Dweck is famous in the psychologist, and there's a lot of enlightenment, inspiration that we can draw from. It's not just the right brain, left brain thing. It's how we actually become a more self-nourishing individual. If we don't see growth in ourselves, how can we influence the people around us? Okay, if you think at individual level, and you can think broader than that into enterprise level, and then community level and city level, there's a lot of to take when we charge ourselves with that ability to sense beyond and able to read deep into the people thinking, the cultural context, and then to come up with, hey, maybe there's an alternative that we can consider. We need that kind of spirit to create a good sense of balance for ourselves. So on with the design movement is very much what we're doing as our public mission. End of the day, we all cherish to have a bright future with inclusive growth, a livable city, charged with enterprise and creativity, and be well-being driven and be sustainable. Thank you very much. Right. Now we have some time here. Now, looking at some of the questions, what is the future of EV transportation in cities? Can you share different scenarios in EV charging system, and how can we further address climate change in this space? Well, now I think they are all key questions that many cities are talking about. Now, when we talk about smart city, of course we talk about human cities. Of course, we have many technologies. Electronic vehicles or electric vehicles are certainly the trends. But at the same time, we talk about how future mobility system should be installed to help people move along or navigate the city, or maybe your first mile, last mile journey. And there are many things that we need to consider. But end of the day, I think we do need to have a system thinking level. We are not just bringing in one aspect, which is just to introduce more electric vehicles into the city. There's a lot of system planning required. The charging station, how about the technologies backing up all these, the technologies. I think we need to have a system planning that gets into the urban planning so that the mobility, the human aspects of transportation could be built in place. And when we organize and influence the way we organize, how can design influence the way we organize events in the future? Well, as said, I don't think there's any fixed answer to that, because we certainly have to go digital. Like we're meeting each other now on in the cyberspace, and I think that is an important aspect of encounter, but it still doesn't completely replace the face-to-face dimensions. Okay, otherwise we can all be living into the cyberspace dimension. And I guess in the future, we have to be even more resourceful event organizers. And with digital as a tool, if needed, we can always invite people to come online. But at the same time, the face-to-face aspect could still be a core element of what we do. Now, particularly years ahead, when we talk about all this immersive experience, and we're not just talking about AR, but we're talking about mixed realities. Okay, so think about a few years down the line when 5G becomes pervasive technology, when everything becomes so digitally connected. Your touch points is becoming part of your life, and together with your day-to-day living, working, with people, there's a lot of fun. So we might need to do some scenario planning and to get a better sense of how that world would look like and feel like, and then we can program accordingly. How does Hong Kong ensure it is doing enough to incorporate good design in public living spaces? more importantly, how do we benchmark our effort constructively against other small cities across the world, Tokyo, New York? Well, Abel, I think your question is a very valid one. In Hong Kong, when we work with our city program projects, my program director and the team probably could share more experience. It's not an easy job because the public spaces involve so many stakeholders. Think about the government department. So many departments are involved before you can plan, not even implement, before you can plan, something to take place. So there's a lot of mindset required and a lot of pitching with good narrative. And sometimes there are stakeholders with pretty conservative mindset. We need to understand their perspective and see how we help them to manage risk as well. So it's kind of a collaborative thing as we go along. And then maybe find something that is not too drastic. Sometimes even, a baby step would be a good step to go forward. And there's a lot of co-play, collaborative efforts that we need. And think about, the team of the people pitching, the cases, to potential, whether it's government stakeholders or whether it's building owners. Can we do something in your public space? I think there's a lot of narrative, good storytelling, and a lot of convincing work that needs to be done. And space is often a challenge. How can we evolve with design that's highly limited to space? Now, to some extent, I think designer loves challenge. Okay, if you prime the case as a challenge, for design, in Japan, for example, it's a very compact living space, but the craftsmen designers are very primed to create amazing space when the living space is actually so compact, but the people are still enjoying their living spaces. Okay, it's very important that we are not just doing the checklist. No matter how small your spaces will be, it's not about whether you have bed, whether you have cooking utensils. You need to anchor. You need to bring and design in dignity. You need to design in well-being into the spaces for people to enjoy. Okay, and think beyond that spaces. Think about the neighborhood, and think about the community. How can we connect the spaces inside and the spaces, communal spaces, for example, and then the community. So do not just be locked in your project or the original intent. Think beyond means that you have to see better perspective, beyond your initial thoughts, and see whether you can anchor the people aspirations, well-being, and needs at the center. What is your opinion about nature-centered design? Well, I think it's sustainable design takes in a lot of measures. Of course, being closer to nature has natural healing factors. I think good design will always embed into what makes people into well-being spaces. So I guess that would be something that could be built in. In the post-COVID world, how might design field look like, and what is the trade-off? Ethical principles of driving centered design. 21st century pandemic society and culture. Now, all these are very big questions. Now, I don't necessarily zoom into the COVID world. COVID-19 only highlights when you are not primed, when you're not ready, when you're not resourceful enough, then we are stuck. Okay, but if you prepare yourself and how you grow yourself to be a resourceful self, how designers become resourceful designers, how enterprise become resourceful with a good network, then you will revisit everything you do. My logistics chain are disrupted. What do? We have to be creative enough to immediately think of alternative. You need to continuously be charged with a creative vibes so that the people can always have the alternative. And I won't say necessarily trade off because we always work with certain parameters, but with that creativity means that knowing certain parameters doesn't necessarily mean that you are boxed in, okay? Because you are resourceful. That's why you can always, without compromising, the desirable outcomes. Maybe there are alternative materials, there may be alternative methods that you can bring in and still able to deliver desirable outcomes. So don't let the trade-off come in play. Okay, when we talk about good design, it's very important that we try to create spaces that we don't get bound by. I don't have time. Come on, we have no budget. That we're forever living with lots of constraints. It's very crucial that we try to go to a higher ground, to sense beyond, see beyond, and then to come back to more interesting propositions. Can we have internal production of food in cities? Actually, there are quite a few questions. Along the line, can we have internal production of food in cities so that we can be less dependent on other countries' supply? Now, that's why every city is breed enterprise and creativity. Okay, there are many entrepreneurs actually doing things like that, and no one will consider cities. Will be talking about agriculture, but agriculture these days can be translated into an indoor agricultural facilities where plants can be grown organically under controlled conditions. Okay, and the vertical green space, and there are lots of enterprises. If you're entrepreneurial enough, there are always propositions that you can do things. Okay, and of course that's we need to have a system planning installed. The system planning will allow us, maybe through some of the land grant regulations, maybe in time it has to be updated to allow certain possibilities to happen. If you're talking about vertical garden, if you're talking about vertical growing sites, where plants can grow, within or outside. So there's a lot of maybe regulations, policy issues that need to think along. That's why I said, very important, good design will only thrive when there is forward-thinking mindset and governance and supportive system. If people are stuck with a process-based and administrative-driven approach, it will be a good job done on government, but we need to open space for more innovation to happen. And most of the time it's experimental. We can't plan ahead 3 years, 5 years down the line and deliver a plan that this is it. We are going to do this year 2, year 3, year 5, year 7. We need to build in opportunities that we can be experimental. Okay, let's see what happens. There's a lot of programming and innovation that we need to bring in, and we need to work closely with our system players. And we are blessed with a lot of funders from government, from philanthropists, from corporates, and there are many shared values being embedded, embraced by corporate these days, in supporting disprivileged groups of people to have access to medical supplies during the COVID-19 period. So there's a lot of system thinking required. Right, there's a question. The designer's state of mind needs to be nurtured from an early stage, not wait until tertiary education, right? So what are the implications for education and parenting? Now, I think that's very questions. I have an 11 years old daughter, and I ask these questions every day. And my wife and I keep thinking about what is the best, to education for her. And being parents, I think this is something very dear to us. But at a broader level, I think the important thing is to nurture something. Hopefully, the kids grow up will forever stay curious. It's very important. Okay, the moment they lose that curiosity. I talked about the T before, but this time the T is not about creativity. This T is about timed out. Okay, if you don't have the humility to learn and to explore new possibilities, to ask around, to sense beyond, to explore new terms, I think you will forever be boxed in. Okay, I'm trained to be this. I'm trained with this competence, but the world is not going to be like this. I think it's very crucial, for us as parents or even for kids, try to create a happy learning space for him or for them. Okay, so that they can forever be inquisitive. Okay, there's no right or wrong answers. Sometimes we kind of use our own norm, and dictate what they should be doing. Even they are young, they have their own minds. We help them, we support them. If they do something and if it's not going to to be a life and death situation. Why don't we let them try it? Maybe it's not going to be failing, so to speak. Okay, and being with a designer mindset means that you have to build in this empathy. Sometimes the kids lack the empathy muscles. Now this is a very important competence for kids growing into the future. Okay, tech is everywhere. Okay, we have no issues about STEM because all governments, including Hong Kong, are pushing STEM education into the community. But don't lose out the human values. Okay, unless we succumb to a future that robots is going to rule the planet, and I'm sure we're not going into that remote space, right? So it's very crucial that we get them inquisitive, happy learning, and joy. And for the educator, it's very important. The school is not a school. The school is about a learning space where people come in every day and they will be happy to learn. And for the educators, they are not teaching. As part of their teaching, they have curriculum, but it's very important that you help to create a happy learning space for them to learn. When the teachers grow with the passion, it's not just to teach, but to inspire learning. That is awesome. That is very amazing. Now, of course, we do need education redesign. Now, this is a very big topic, and I guess we can't beg for the system redesign to completely happen. We can't stop the time right now, and I guess we can start working. That's why we are so keen and we're working so hard to bring creative thinking, design thinking into classroom. We're working with schools, primary schools, secondary schools, and it's not just design center. There are so many partners out there, PMQ, and there are so many other education providers are embracing creative thinking, design thinking into their offering to kids from kindergarten upwards. So I guess it's very let's see whether there are any answers that I could ask. There are quite a few of them. Now, there are questions about food mobility in the questions. You are into the space of the livable city, smart city. As I said, no matter what words that you use doesn't matter. End of the day, it's the people living in the space. Okay, it has to be human in a sense because end of the day is well-being is about whether we enjoy, whether we have a space to live, work, and play. Okay, how we deploy technology in a way to help us navigate the city, to have many different mobility modules that we can bring in to help people move around. And there will be a lot of technologies, no doubt, in the future. And think about the inclusive growth. There are many cities are growing with populations that is aging. It happens everywhere. Okay, don't think about just us. Think about how we can help people to move around. Okay, in Hong Kong, there are many older districts, or even with hilly areas. How can we help people to move around and still enjoy their life as they grow old? It's very important. Remember, the design of the city is about dignity. It's about well-being. It's about a happy space for people to grow beyond and be charged with energy, be charged with enterprise and creativity, so that we can be a very agile and we can be a very versatile and a resourceful self. When more people are charged with that ability, if you are an employer, more of your staff have that creative mindset. I don't think you need to worry about your business being stuck by COVID-19. In the future, I'm sure there will be other infectious diseases coming along. I'm sure there will be other natural disasters. What do? We have to stay agile. We have to stay mentally prepared. We have to stay even as a competence, to be able. That's why, I always inspire students, young people, or even everyone. Whether you read books or whether you learn, just learn as many as possible. Okay, we all have a job to do. That's our profession. That's fine. Okay, try to develop interest to enrich and nourish your mind, so that you can come across different perspective. In a smart city, it's not just about the mobility and whether you can grow food because we care about food safety. Okay, it's about the data privacy. It's all about whether we have a degree of trust within the community, so that when you deploy a camera on a lamppost, the people will trust that the data is not going to be misused for other things. There's a lot of big design going on to build community consensus and to build rapport with the people. The power of design is about building the muscles of empathy. Okay, it's about building the muscles of empathy to allow us to have the sensitivity, to people feeling. Because at the end of the day, you want behavioral change. Technology cannot force behavioral change, and rules cannot force behavioral change. You need to motivate change, and people buy in, and then they will do it.